Today, on This American Dice, facing down a monster inside the lunar cave. Also, hey everybody. So this episode is an example of a slight problem. We were recording this session, and a little bit in, we stopped the recording, and apparently, when we thought we had picked it back up, the file never saved. So, shockingly, there will be a sudden big change in how things work as we tried to piece it together through notes to kind of make the narrative continue to make sense, even though we lost probably like an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours worth of actual gameplay. So see if you can figure out exactly where it goes from being a regular actual play to us maybe reading a script of the notes and then, back. If you do figure it out, please write to us at 255-525-255, Boynton, North Boynton, 34125. Thank you.
We see a messenger on a horse, trotting along on this down this kind of country road, and coming to kind of this little way station. Seemingly, like all we see around it are just these fields. The messenger comes to the way station, and he gets off the horse. He talks to like a servant who's there. And we see that the two of them are like exchanging words, and the servant, of course, is like bowing. The messenger seems like they're one of the low-ranking samurai, probably like a lot of the Thunder Guard are, where they're more important than a peasant, but they're maybe not super important. After all, he's literally kind of a dignified mailman in this case, although that is a super important job at times.
Is it Ajo or June, the only two named Thunder Guard?
So this person is not a Thunder Guard. Oh. So I think we can see that they...
probably not.
There's someone who's essentially just... who is just a messenger. Who's like working in the service of someone to just deliver these messages. So... this person has to kind of go out, they hop back on the horse, and they kind of, this time not so much trot or move as quickly, and head kind of off the beaten path. And off in the distance we can see that there is a campfire. And this person comes to the campfire just to kind of where we can see that there's a person, like one lone figure, kind of sitting at the campfire. The messenger gets off the horse and slowly approaches. When the lone figure finally stands up, the messenger bows, and you hear, "What do you want?" And you turn, and enough of the fire's light catches, and we see the face of Kuni Renyu. And the messenger says, "I have messages for you." And he says, "Messages?" It says, from Ryoko Owari. And he kind of steps up and reaches into like a satchel that he has and pulls out two messages. The first message Kuni Renyu opens, and we see that it has the mark of the Emerald Magistrates on it. And can remember that Hida Ishi had sent him a message. He reads it to himself, and he folds it up.
Throws it away.
I don't think he throws it away, but he folds it up and he kind of like puts it down. And then he opens the other one, and the other one isn't written anywhere near as nicely, and it's not stamped anywhere near as officially. But for this one, which we had not seen as the audience, we get like a voiceover over the Japanese text. And so we hear like basically like we didn't want to contact you about this. But we're very concerned that our commanding officer is acting suspiciously. There's something going on here that we think warrants your attention or one of the witch hunters' attention. we're not sure if our commander is up to the task. His behaviors have been somewhat suspicious. And I think the word suspicious is real like smudged, kind of, as if the person was almost writing it in a way where they felt distressed or unsure of how to put it.
They crossed out.
Yeah, maybe it is. Or like, yeah.
And the second time it's underlined.
Yeah. And so, and I think it just says, like, please come, like, please send someone as soon as you can. And it's signed, I think, either Shijie or Goro.
A large city surrounded by green walls and acres of poppy fields. A group of monks traveled toward the city, exchanging prayers for whatever alms the poor peasants of the countryside can spare. In the noble quarter, we see a beautiful but imposing palace and a foreign-looking minareted estate. In the temple quarter, we see the glistening white temple of the sun goddess with a 60-foot pole topped by a shimmering golden spear, and the temple of the fortune of wealth with its towering statue of the patriot god of the city. Next door, in the merchant quarter, we see busy streets with noisy merchants selling wares from all over Rokugan and beyond. On the other side of the Bay of Drowned Honor, the fisherman's quarter, dirtier with poorer commoners, meaner gangs, and shabby dwellings amid the docks and warehouses. We pass the leather workers' quarter, the home of the Ada, the Untouchables, and the only building of notice there, the city crematorium. Finally, we arrive at Teardrop Island, the licensed quarter, with its perpetual twilight of hanging lanterns, fine sake and geisha houses. We follow a man in a basket hat as he's beckoned inside by a beautiful geisha. He enters and removes his hat. We see one of the monks from the beginning. Ryoko Owari, City of Lies.
We have a shot of the PCs kind of standing around, and we have a shot of the Oni that's dead in the like in this alleyway, and we go back across the faces of the PCs, and then back to the Oni, and then we hop up to Kuni Renyu's face, into the face of at least Goro and Shijie, and then kind of like a wide shot of all of the characters standing kind of in this alley.
And the idea was that Kuni Renyu and the other craft boys chased it.
Yeah. So they had been chasing it apparently, and you guys ended up, just as Yugare's power had, be right where you needed to be. Mm-hmm. And so you guys were able to catch this thing once they flushed it out to you, essentially. Mm-hmm. So then Kuni Renyu looks down and says, like, you killed it.
Didn't he say you killed one or something like that?
Ooh, I like that better, yeah. So, all right.
So it says you killed one?
Yeah, so it's like you killed one.
Are there more in the city?
Oh, there certainly are.
We've seen but one at a time. If there are many, do you know their origin?
He says, of course. Yeah.
Good.
Kind of. Well, he almost gives that kind of explanation. He says, they're the things selfish and stupid men drag out from the dark so they can satiate their own hungers.
Is this,
This is a little one. But there are much bigger ones still left. You've seen one before. So you've said.
This is the same thing as what I saw?
This is the Panic Devil. Mm-hmm. So he's referencing the flying Oni.
Oh. All right. look pretty different. Well, we're at the right place at the right time.
He says, how fortuitous.
How long have you been chasing it?
He says, you guys are in the, if we look on the map, you guys are in the downhill. You're in the downhill, I think probably up in this direction up here.
Sure.
And I think he says he was chasing it from up almost in the Two Gates area.
Christ.
That they had heard that there was something there, and they worked to flush it away from the bay. And as he's saying this, again, there's...
Are we like right on the front? Are we like right on the waterfront pretty much?
I don't think you're on the waterfront. I think you're near... I think you're in an alley. Like, I think this thing did get like chased a little bit into an alley or away from the water.
Okay.
And you are standing around its corpse, which has reverted definitely to like 5 foot tall, scrawny fish creature size.
That's something
Weird
Yeah. So
Taiyo might say, like, to no one in particular, like, we have to do something with his body. When he had burned it last time, it made half of them sick or dead or something. I kind of forget.
yeah, I think they did. I think Eyebrows just said that they'd gotten sick.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Even burning their corpses, toxic. Do you know how to deal with that, Yugare?
I could try to cleanse it before burning, but I don't have any experience with that type of thing.
I think as you guys are standing there kind of like having this discussion, again, the 5 or 6 soldiers kind of seem nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit strange because theoretically the threat is done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And do we, the rest of us, recognize them as his old troops?
Yes. I think it's pretty clear. They're probably like just pretty big. Like if you were like hanging out with, and these are my 5 buddies and they're all Marines, kind of like a thing. Like, oh yeah, well, I could probably remember these dudes are pretty like big. And I think they might be like more in armor and that kind of stuff than normal. And so they might be like all armored up and like have their weapons. Some of them might have weapons that aren't just like katanas. I think like at least 1 or 2 of these guys carry the big like Tetsubo clubs. Mm-hmm. They're like massive war clubs that are made out of like wood, and sometimes they say they're made of stone in this, but I think that'd be a little crazy. But it's like wood and metal like ringed together. And yeah, I think that is a point where you notice that also each of these guys wore, essentially under Ishi, they had been like deputies, essentially, and so they still have those badges with them. And I think the badges are almost like tinier versions of your own. And these guys had been with you for a while. It wasn't just like, I've deputized you, come with me, kind of a thing. And so I think they have these kind of like small badges that they're wearing. And they each have just like a tiny little like pea-sized thing of jade on it. But yeah, these guys look kind of nervous.
Well, do you? I don't even know if I know his name. I don't know if I've actually met this guy.
Kuni Renyu? Yeah, I don't think Taiyo's interacted with him.
You've ever seen him?
Yeah, I'll say, well, do you know of a way to get rid of this corpse?
And he says, we'll take care of that when the danger's done.
What immediate danger is there right now?
Ooh. Would you want to make read a situation roll?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Just going to push you with a hint at that. Alright, so we got an 11, so not bad.
That's pretty nice.
Plus at least a 1. Alright, and do you have that advanced?
No.
Okay.
That's the only good advanced one, Andrew.
No.
Why did you guys roll? Why do we roll high? Someone else?
What should I be on the lookout for?
Oof. Kuni Renyu is implying that there's still more danger afoot, and you look at like the body positioning of the other guys, the other soldiers, and they're not facing this creature at all. They're facing you guys as if you're the threat, and probably the majority of them are facing Ishi as if he's the threat. But all of them seem very nervous. And so, theoretically, Kuni Renyu and these guys, you can pick up that they view you as the threat. So what is the biggest threat right now? This group of armed men who view you as a problem.
They're nervous.
Yeah, and some of them are seem a little itchy right now. Over the body of the panic devil, Kuni Renyu and Ishi's deputies are staring at the PCs. The deputies seem nervous, and Renyu brings up that only Ishi isn't wearing a jade badge. He gives Ishi a finger of jade.
Ishi hides the pain that it causes him.
Renyu then takes the panic devil's body outside the city to be burned, having Yugare assist him with the purification rituals.
The smoke of the Oni's body drifts toward the moon, and Yugare discovers that Henjo, the Maho Tsukai, has taken his children to the lunar cave. He also discovers that Misaki is looking for her children, and that may end in bloodshed.
The group splits up. Yugare and Ishi, Aji, Renyu, and the deputies are going to the lunar cave. Meanwhile, Taiyo is looking for Misaki.
After speaking with Shoshiro Gobai, a known relative of Misaki, Taiyo heads to Kitsuki Jotomen's dojo with Ample acting as a bodyguard.
When they arrive at Jotomen's, there's a ruckus inside. Meanwhile, the group arrives at the lunar cave.
Aji notices footprints in the snow around the lunar cave, and they follow them to the entrance.
Taiyo and Ample enter the dojo and discover that Jotomen's butler has been killed, and soon they see that the ruckus they've heard is Misaki wildly attacking Jotomen with a cleaver.
Misaki looks crazed and disheveled. Jotomen is avoiding her attacks and has held back on striking Misaki as she recognizes her as Yugare's wife.
When Taiyo mentions that Misaki is under assault by dark forces, Jotomen seems like she may attack Misaki, and Taiyo is forced to wrestle her to the ground. Taiyo is hurt a bit in the process, but is successful. With Ample and Jotomen's help, Taiyo brings Misaki to the house of Asako Kinto for healing.
In the moon cave, the PCs enter and see a dark ritual being performed. The moon is shining into the cave, and it's a full moon, though it's not the right time of month for this. The room is bathed in an eerie red glow. There are cultists chanting around a mysterious symbol painted on the floor. The cultists are wearing masks of the moon god and bleeding onto the floor of the cave. Henjo, the Meho Tsukai that took Yugare's children, is crying out to the moon god to bring forth a servant to aid them in taking the earth back for him.
Yugare's children are next to Henjo, who cuts a large snake's head down the middle and uses the fangs of the snake to have the children take part in the bloodletting.
Ishi figures out that the Henjo is a Maho Tsukai, even though all of his rantings are related to the moon.
Taiyo arrives at Kinto's house. Kinto takes a while to answer the door. He has no servants and makes Taiyo and company wait outside. When they finally go inside, tired of waiting, Kinto is covering something up.
Taiyo helps Kinto hold down Misaki in order to treat her. In the meanwhile, Ample and Jotomen are watching. Taiyo hears a terrible snap, and when he looks back to see Jotomen's neck has been broken by Ample, who is now advancing toward Taiyo. Realizing Ample is likely under the influence of something evil, Taiyo attempts to strike Ample with his Jade Magistrates badge, but Ample simply grabs him sumo style and throws him to the floor. Taiyo is rendered unconscious.
Now for the Moon Cult showdown. The PCs rush in and Ishi attempts to interrupt the ritual. Unfortunately, as the first several cultists are killed, the blood spilled completes the ritual and an Oni has been summoned. The snake with the split head grows huge and terrifying into a two-headed Hydra-like creature.
Yugare calls down a bolt of lightning on the snake as he warns the others that spilling more blood will only feed the dark energy of the room.
As he says that, Ishi kills the Henjo right before the snake grabs him in his coils.
Aji knows that he is no match for the snake, so he decides to save Ishi by cutting him loose from his armor.
Kuni Renyu tries to snap Yugare's kids out of a trance, but it takes Yugare's cleansing water magic to do so.
Ishi then kills the Oni, but in the process is nearly killed.
Taiyo captured awakens.
Taiyo wakes to find that he's in Kinto's yard amidst the ruins, covered in an ancient serpentine hieroglyphics.
Over the hieroglyphics is a symbol similar to the one the moon cultists drew on the floor of the lunar cave. This symbol is drawn in fresh blood.
Taiyo's being held in place by April, who still seems to be in a trance.
Soshi Seryoku appears and says that killing Taiyo will help to destroy those that have wronged her. She criticizes the Shosuros and Bayushis for their greed and says Taiyo's death blood could be used to really accomplish something.
Taiyo reluctantly offers to help her.
A second woman in a basket hat appears and says, "Yes, Suki, I think there is certainly a way we can get you to help us." You guys, I think, are in this cave, and it's there's a bunch of these cultists that have been kind of like grabbed or subdued. There's Henjo, who has been cut in half. There is the withered body of this Oni that, remember, it had turned into this giant Hydra-like snake. What happens to it as it's now dead? Oh, what if, like snake skin turns like all dry and brittle? Like if after you do that, it's just that, and it just like crumbles.
Just like the skin left.
Yeah, like that's all that's there.
I was going to say something like that, but then like 1,000 snakes slither out and just disperse.
What if instead it's, when you slice into this creature, it's kind of wounded, and then it almost petrifies and turns into that kind of snake skin looking, like shed snake skin, and then when it falls over and kind of like breaks up, snakes come out, but they're just snakes made of like blood almost, and they just evaporate after they get away, almost like dying. So that way the audience doesn't think like, do they have to kill those? Do they have to go after them? It's just like, oh, they're gone. Sure. So, and it further really cements like, boy, that thing was evil.
Yeah.
All right. So also in this room are Yugare, Aji, Ishi, and Yugare's 2 children.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can see.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
1, 2,
Scar
yep,
from...
Kuni Renyu is still here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's standing over... He's kind of surveying the scene. And he's looking over at these cultists.
I think Yugare is preoccupied. He's just basically like cleansed his kids of their delirium and just like comforting them and making sure they're okay and like see what they can remember, if anything, and just make sure they're not like evil or tainted or confused.
So I think the kids can tell you, and this conversation with them is probably going on while everybody else in the lunar cave is doing other stuff. Your children can tell you that they awoke, they had a dream, and that they were that they thought that they were following. They'll say that they thought that they were following their father to something. But they'll, like, you can tell by the look on their face, like, they realize that statement isn't accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they weren't confused to think that guy was you. They seem like they were perhaps in some kind of trance or another.
Well, I'll just make sure they understand that that wasn't their dad. They understand that now, and they're correct, and it's okay. It's not their fault. And
they seem super confused. Like, they almost seem like they've like emerged from like a fugue state kind of a thing, that they were operating almost automatically.
Right.
And they can tell you some of the things that they encountered, but all of the things are these like rather dreamlike things. Like, they can say that they remember
being cut by thorns. They can say they remember like playing
jump rope,
playing in the garden.
Something about a belt.
They can remember, They can remember like a lightning storm and taking shelter with their father. But again, they know that wasn't correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. So I'm just gonna basically everyone else can do the scene, but I gotta just comfort them. I think.
Sure. All right. So, Ishi and Aji, again, Kuni Renyu and the deputies are kind of working with these cultists. Essentially arresting, the equivalent of arresting them, kind of binding them. Some of them struggle a little bit here and there, but for the most part, these guys can detain these remaining cultists. I'll say there's 8 of them that are still alive, 8 of these cultists.
Hachi died, right?
Henjo.
Henjo?
Yeah, Henjo, the Meiho Tsukai, was cut in half.
Good. He's got him.
It's very dead. Quite dead, yeah. I'm really fucked up. I'm ready to go home. Ishi's ready to go.
I think, okay, Ishi's just ready to go.
He's fucked up, really fucked up.
Okay.
Super fucked up. My armor is destroyed.
I think Kuni Renyu turns to whichever one of either Aji or Ishi is closest to him and says well, I'm just he almost just says, are these people that you want to try?
Yes. These people must face the Emperor's justice. They will probably be hanged by the next day.
I was going to let him hang him.
So
they should be publicly hanged.
Why?
We need to send a message.
I think you can pick up pretty easily. He's asking you, do you want to bother to bring these people back into the village? Do you want to bother to bring these people all the way back into Ryoko Owari? Or do you want to just execute them here?
No, let's bring him back to the city and execute them there. Let's hang him on his big hang stage.
Okay.
How many are there?
I think it's 8 or so.
He has room, it's fine. You can do it in sets of 3, sets of 4.
Yeah. You should bring it back to the city. And then announce that if anyone sees any cultist-like activities, to report it to the nearest Thunder Guard.
Just fucking popping that shit on the Thunder Guard, God damn it, man. Just say shit like that.
So,
we can use the cultists to blame that fish monster, because people like looking for someone to blame. More like public relations.
and Kuni Renyu looks around and will say, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to do, I don't care. So long as you know that there's something else that summoned that creature. It wasn't him. And he'll point over to Henjo's corpse.
I think it'd be good to calm the city down for now. We can redouble our efforts once the city is no longer in chaos.
I'll ask Kuni Renyu. So this new threat, how much stronger do you think this person is when compared to Henjo?
Ooh. So Kuni Renyu is going to answer your question, for sure. But I want to make you make some kind of roll to do this investigation through him. He's going to give you the information, but I want there to be a roll connected to this to see if something could go wrong with either his understanding of this or shit that you can't see going on.
Oh, great at that roll investigation.
Hold on. Yeah, what do we think this should be? Should it be a sagacious roll? Or should it be...
It's an investigation.
Or like a read a person,
Yeah.
Because he said a statement. You know.
Sure. Yeah, and you're trying to figure it out?
Yeah.
All right, I'm down with that. We got a 6 plus.
That's a 6.
Nice.
6, baby.
All right. So, very Kroll-esque there. All right. Yeah. So I think that Renyu and those guys are kind of binding up these cultists, and Renyu kind of grabs one of them and starts to do kind of a very impromptu interrogation. And the cultist, through a lot of it, is doing. You can tell that the cultist is afraid of what's going on, but they're like kind of throwing back a lot of threats and curses and that kind of stuff back at you guys. And Renyu will say, there are Meihosukai that don't even know the powers they serve. There are Meihosukai like this Henjo, who think whatever spirit they're conjuring up is something that they can control. They don't know that they're pulling things out of the pits of hell. And this cultist is yelling about like the moon, like Lord Moon created this world with the sun, and he's more powerful than heaven and hell combined. You don't have any chance. I don't know why he sounds like an old man. You don't have any chance to stop him. He's more than Jigoku's curses. He is the one who created this earth and every little bit of you that's ever been made. Like he's like saying this stuff, but you can tell he's also like a little scared, kind of. And so this kind of stuff is coming out of a person who's been backed into a corner. Yeah, he'll just tell you that Kuni Renyu will tell you, like, the way this seemed is this dude didn't even know he was a Meihosukai. He thought he was worshiping the moon. And he looks around at this symbol and he goes, I don't know what this symbol even is. Like, it's that it's not connected to anything like related to Meiho that he knows of.
I prefer light Meiho anyway.
No, he won't say that he doesn't know what it is. So he looks around at all this stuff and say, there's a chance this man. That's what it is. There's a chance this man doesn't even know what this symbol means. There he goes. That's a change up to it. And so he'll say like that it's just like a symbol of. I think Kuni Renyu will say, the less you know about it, the better. It's kind of how that part he'll kind of like hold into himself. Unless you want to check out what he really knows. Right, Detective? Absolutely.
What's this blood taste like?
Oh my god, 3.
Well, it's a 6, but that's not even good enough.
Alright, damn. Yeah.
I know nothing.
Yeah, Kuni Renyu just says, the less... Or yeah, he'll, like, if you are kind of like, you kind of eye it again, he'll say the more you look into the darkness, the more it looks back at you. But he'll say it in his, the more you look into the darkness, the more it looks back at you.
Okay.
Yeah. And he'll light another cigarette. But yeah, he'll tell you that, Aji, that like this guy didn't know what was going on. And based on how he was talking, and based on the fact that they came back to this lunar cave, and that now all of a sudden they got this, and then Yugare had said that a Kansen, some dark spirit, had offered him to help. He goes, this person was inspired by whoever summoned that the fish creature, the panic devil. This person, Henjo, was inspired by whoever is tied to that flying beast you saw, Ishi.
This man saw too,
Yeah, he's... Yeah.
So it's tied to the demon tongue girl? Okay. Tongue demon? Okay.
Copycats.
That's us tattoo. There we go. Ishi's real fucked up.
Okay.
If you couldn't tell that, demon tongue.
Oh yeah, you did the move where you don't die last time, right?
Yeah.
Oh. No. Well, his move is he gets an
My
extra
move
action.
activated. My move activated.
The regular beginning,
nothing happened.
not the move. Yeah.
Right.
My move activated and nothing happened.
All right. So I think you guys start heading out and most of these deputies can kind of manhandle two of these people at a time, and maybe one of the deputies can help you kind of move along.
Wonderful.
And I think Kuni Renyu kind of either pulls ahead or holds back to help Aji. Renyu kind of pulls Aji to the side and says, and just says, like, how well do you know him? And he kind of nods over to Ishi. You do remember that in the last game you wondered to yourself, how is it that Ishi could possibly do this stuff?
Yeah. When Aji thinks about it, like, he just, Ishi has always been like this tall, silent, like, man in armor. Kind of like stoic. So he actually doesn't know that much about Ishi.
He's not anymore in the army.
Except he killed the man from like waking in a nightmare. And that's pretty much the biggest thing he knows.
That's so much funny shit.
So
That's the most memorable part.
Which out of this shit?
Which Aji relays to Kuni Renyu.
That's the only time you woke us all up in the middle of the night with murder.
Sure.
I think Kuni Renyu kind of like continues on quietly for a while. You guys get to near like the part where you have to squeeze through this part of the cave to get out, which is going to be pretty awkward to force captives out of here with this.
You just don't have a sword and weapon.
But he just says, there's a lot of people who go hunting after monsters, and it takes a lot to not become one yourself.
I think I understand.
All right. So yeah, you guys start prodding these people through. I think probably either Aji or Renyu or both of you go through first, and then kind of the deputies and the other folks push the other captives like forward. They might even do it just like two people at a time, pushing them forward. And it takes a long time because it's tough to kind of sneak through this cave, and it's easy for these folks to almost just try to refuse to move and have to be like kind of pulled or forced out of that case. And I think that we see Ishi kind of moving forward and being like helped along by one of the deputies, and being kind of like, you have to go through this thing on your own. And I think you get stuck briefly.
Okay.
In this, like, literally, like, you are having a hard time, like, your body is so kind of messed up, like, getting through here is difficult. And I think we kind of cut away with you in this, like, kind of panic situation of, like, your body is trapped in this little crevice.
City of Lies is Toan as Kakita Aji, Branden as Hida Ishi, David as Bayushi Taiyo, Andrew as Agasha Yugare, and Austin as your Game Master. The theme music for City of Lies is Mission of Danger by Lobo Loco. Additional music for this episode includes Volcano Lake by Lobo Loco. Our intro was read by Scott. This American Dice Ryoko Owari City of Lies uses the City of Lies box set by Greg Stolz, published by Alderac Entertainment Group. The mechanics used is a modified PBTA system by Brendan Taylor of Galileo Games. Join us next time for more This American Dice. Hey everybody, if you could please rate, review, and subscribe to our show
on your favorite podcatcher. It would really help This American Dice. And for every 5-star review we receive, we'll read it on air. Join us next week for another episode of This American Dice.
It deflates like a balloon.
It deflates like a balloon. It's just this withered thing.
No, it flies right around it.
I like it. He goes, I'm the cushioned man. I'm just going to keep let it roll. Get something from the door.
It's the microphone.
It's the microphone!
Ye of little faith. It's before 9.
It's the microphone! It has happened only an hour into recording.
If we take another break, we can mess with this.
Alright, let's
Restart. Fuck
everything.
Come on, get your scripts ready.
Get your scripts ready, guys.
Okay.
Let's get this audio quality.
Yeah.
It's only going to be so much worse when it's halfway through a fucking episode. It gets
That
better.
would be